Hello everyone, and welcome back aboard the night train for a very special video. Today, when this video goes live, I'm recording it a little bit early, but today is the 10th anniversary since I launched my first video on this channel all the way back in December 2015. And if you told me then that I would still be uploading and chatting nonsense on the channel today, I probably would have just shaken my head and not really believed it. But here we are, almost, well, perhaps even 150 videos later. First of all, a massive thank you to everybody who's subscribed, either from the very beginning or yesterday. All the support is really what helps keep everything that I do going. And for those of you that have been here for the long haul and have seen me go from early, very budget-friendly Thomas series to the layout building and reviewing I'm doing now, thank you so much for supporting me over the years and for sticking around. And if you've just found this channel for the first time and have a whole 10 years worth of stuff to catch up on that you're not familiar with, welcome. Please consider subscribing, because there is going to be much more from me coming in the near and perhaps even distant future. We'll see. But yes, I decided I'd do a special video diving back into my channel's history, giving some commentary, behind the scenes stuff, breaking a few bits and surprises back out of storage to show off. So if this all sounds like what you're in for, then do stick around for what I'm imagining is going to be a very lengthy ramble that I'm going to have to try and cut down to a reasonable length. So what I've decided I'll cover today includes my very first series, Ffarquhar Yards. I'm going to be giving it a rewatch for the first time in years and giving a sort of live commentary, or at least the highlights of the commentary that I record, as well as show off some of the scripts that I wrote but never adapted. Those are still sitting in a folder somewhere, and going back through those was very interesting, and part of me wonders why I just didn't make them. But anyway, and I'm going to do the same thing as well with my time in the TCC, so I've got a few bits knocking around to do with that. The Boko fan film that came out around that time as well, because that seems to be a linchpin that's really kept this channel going through the algorithm, even during the dormant years. And then following that, I'm going to do something similar. I'm going to dive back into the magic within for the first time in a couple of years, give some sort of retrospective thoughts and insights into what I did with that, as well as a couple of other behind the scenes bits as well, cut storylines, sequel ideas I had that I guess realistically were just never going to go anywhere. And yeah, everything after that up until the present day pretty much, bookended by a question and answer session at the end. You submitted questions to me, I've got answers, so if you've asked something, make sure you stick around for that part of the video as well. And also perhaps a little bit about the future as well, and what I'm kind of thinking of doing with the channel. Just, it'll be helpful maybe to voice that and then see if it's what you're up for, if it's what you're expecting, or if you're perhaps expecting me to do a couple of different things than perhaps I'm thinking of. That's a lot. I appreciate it's probably not of interest to everyone, so I'm going to timestamp everything in the description. So if you're just here to hear about one specific project again after a good while, you can jump straight into it and you're not waiting around, guessing which part of the video to go to. Yeah, the whole shebang. So one thing I haven't mentioned is, before I do any of that, I'm actually going to show off something that I don't think I've ever shown on this channel before, and that is my very first layout, or at least the first one that I helped design, and that my dad helped build me so that I had something to play with at home, because a lot of that has actually migrated throughout Ffarquhar Yards, throughout the magic within, into my current layout over the years, as well as my, I guess, personal favourite engines and ways of dealing with trains on the layout and that kind of thing. So, without further ado, I present you with what was my very first personal model railway layout, Stroudley. So here we are. This was a roughly 4 foot by 2 foot little sort of half loop layout that sat on top of my chest of drawers in my childhood bedroom. In fact, it was the exact same kind of drawers that my current layout is actually sitting on. It's sitting on a pair of them because they're just really good for supporting layouts, and it worked then, it works now, why change it? And the first thing I noticed upon opening these old images are, well, the Reliant Robin in the background, Mr. Bean cameos. They've been there from the start with me on my layouts. They're going to be on there for a good long while into the future as well. God, why was I so obsessed with Mr. Bean as a kid? Anyway, yeah, we've got here a lot of the blueprint of what I've tried to keep on some of my layouts. We've got standard gauge and 00. We've got 009 lines as well. We've got a massive crane that I've still got. Metcalf signal box, they don't really tend to last very long. That's long gone. And we've got a Hornby J52, which, yeah, tank engines were my personal favourite kind of engine back then. And I'm really looking forward to the new Rapido one because I don't have that one anymore. More on what my original fleet was later. They're all in these pictures. So, yeah, here's a little bit more of the layout. So it had tunnels at both ends, sort of hiding the lines that were going into them. It was a flat board at the back, so the trains didn't really go anywhere. It did limit the shunting, and that's why, I don't know, I couldn't really bring trains on and off of this layout as I really wanted to, so it was just sort of a very glorified shunting puzzle, pretty much. But it had the little wooden platform you can see there. That is on my current layout. I've extended it like twofold. I've still got the little hut as well. I've got another little creek, pond-like creek between lines as well, but on my narrow gauge loop this time. And we also have a Metcalf station, good old, was it Dapol or Airfix plastic engine shed? I think that was one of the very first models I ever painted up by myself. And I think that cameoed in, certainly in the magic within at least. But yeah, we have the Dapol Stepney there. That was one of the first engines I ever got, probably just after the Hornby Stepney. Pretty much the Hornby Thomas Stepney for clarity. And yeah, a couple of handed down rolling stock from my dad. I've still got the classic BR 20-ton brake van. I've still got the steel-sided vent wagon as well. So what's really interesting going back through these is there's the Shroudly nameplate. It all looks very basic and rough compared to what I'm doing now, so I've come a lot further with my modelling standard than I perhaps thought I had. I thought I'd remain pretty flat. But, yeah, this is just sort of, it works as a starter layout. You've just got these hideous Hornby controllers all bolted, taking up an entire corner of the board. Thank God I don't have that anymore. And I still have a lot of these little cars today as well. That one, the little blue one down there, that became my token Fat Controller's car in Ffarquhar Yards as well. Yeah, I had to get going somehow. This was it. And yeah, to begin with, in my non-Thomas fleet at least, I've got Thomas photos as well. I just had Stepney in the J52, some four-wheel coaches and some small rolling stock. So as basic as it came, but it got me going. I had fun. This was interesting because this really dates when I was playing with this layout, because I got this engine specifically because of Porter being introduced in Series 17 of Thomas. I always planned to repaint it into Porter and to make it into a custom character. He was always my planned first custom character for some reason. I don't know. I'm weird. But again, he was just too big compared to his show's counterpart, so I just never took the plunge. And eventually the engine got passed on because I just knew I was never going to do it. But yeah, that was an interesting thing to come back and see. And yeah, the two tender engines that were my staple, we have Blackmore Vale and the Q1, because one of the first non-Thomas Railway books I ever got when I was a kid was one about the locomotives of the Bluebell Railway, and these two really caught my eye. They're really outstanding, bizarre, but enigmatic engines, and I still have both of those engines as well as the Dapol Stepney. Here we go. This is where things started to get juicy. We have my first Kobo, which I believe was a Silver Fox. It was a kit build. I got it on, I think, eBay for 30 quid back in the day. God, how prices have just skyrocketed. And it was actually numbered D5702. It was nicely weathered, but it did run hot. And that is what eventually burnt it out. So it was my only diesel For a long time, Class 28 was my only diesel, even up until recent years. And yeah, it's quite an interesting little fleet. You've got Southern, you've got Northern, you've got American, you've got failed diesels, you've got Air Smooth, you've got Austerity 060s. I just had what I fancied as a kid, and that's kind of all kids need to get started. Those, yes. There you go. Another thing that's just carried on into my current layout is I liked dinosaurs as well. My dad put in a newly discovered skeleton in the sort of weird narrow gauge quarry scene I had going on. I've done something similar now, a bit more realistic perhaps, although this one is in the death pose due to rigor mortis, which you see in a lot of uncovered, largely complete theropod skeletons, going off on a tangent. So yeah, actually looks quite good in retrospect. So yeah, that's Stroudley in a nutshell. Not a very imaginative name. You can tell it just came because I liked the terrier. And to show off the Thomas fleet I had at the time, here we go. Here is everything just Thomas-wise. We've got the Hornby Thomas, we've got the gigantic Hornby Bill and Ben, we've got Hornby Percy, Hornby Duck, we've got the Hornby Sodor Mail Coach, and a couple of other little ones. We've got Thumper up there, looking quite happy at discovering the dinosaur skeleton. We've got Cranky, that's the same Bachmann Cranky I've got now, and that's the Hornby Devious Diesel and the Hornby D261 as the incorrect Class 37. So again, it was quite an interesting array of Thomas characters I had as well, and this was before I got rid of them all, swapped to the Bachmann ones for more show-accurate representations for Ffarquhar yards when I decided I seriously wanted to make a series. But I don't know, just something about the Hornby models. They get so many people into the hobby. They've done a lot, despite a lot of their shortcomings. There's D261 again, with one of my first sort of custom jobs. I put silver giant buffers on him, more like the TV show. That isn't how he came normally, but that was one of the first little custom tweaks I ever made to an engine. Hornby Stepney as well, the first engine that kick-started all of this. Looking very happy there, and that's before I added lamp irons to him and removed his brake gear to make him a little bit more show accurate. And there we go. I think that's everything I can say on Stroudley. It's certainly been nice to flick through it again after all these years. But yeah, there just wasn't enough play value on it for me, which is when I decided to make a completely brand new layout, and that became what was the original board I used for filming the very first episodes of my Ffarquhar Yard series. So yeah, rather than just go through photos, I thought I'll actually watch some of those old episodes and sort of give my thoughts in what I remember about making them, how they look today, and give a few little tidbits here and there. So yeah, this is probably just going to end up being a sizzle reel of all the bits that I picked out of the various episodes. But if you want to go back and watch them, there is still a playlist on this channel. Right. Time to get started with what was the beginning of the trained assassin era of this channel. Yeah, I really wasn't very good at picking channel names back then. Actually, before we get going, I forgot, even though it's right here, that I got this out especially for this portion. Here we have my original hand-painted brick by brick Ffarquhar station building. It's got the Tomy Motor Road and Rail one. It's got a little screenshot, little few Railway Series-y posters on there just to fill those poster gaps. And yeah, it's actually, I was going to refurbish this and reuse it for a future Ffarquhar layout, but that didn't really happen. So it does actually have one of the Hornby mag lights in it, so that I can turn the station lights on and off through control through the roof pretty much. And I was actually going to fit this out with an interior as well, so there was a lit up interior. But again, it's just one of those things that I just never got around to. But I still have the station building. I can't bring myself to throw it away. The platform that goes with it has actually been reused on my Rail 200 entry board for the Pico competition. So yeah, there's still plenty of these little bits knocking around because, you know, they mean stuff to me and probably to you as well if you are watching this. Anyway, that's Ffarquhar. It's here while we do this little run through of the series itself. So without further ado, let's get on with it. Okay, so we're going to start off with the very first episode. This was filmed in my university accommodation. It was a tiny 4-foot long board by only about like 50 centimetres. Slightly smaller than Stroudley, but it did fit under my uni student bed, so it was really easy to bring out, put away. It had a perspex lid to stop it getting dusty in the interim. It worked for the time, and I could bring trains in and out either end, which is what I couldn't do with my previous layout. So yeah, this was the very first episode, and oh, that audio. That was filmed on a £5 microphone that I picked up from a charity shop, and you can really tell. Again, just seeing how it's put together, it's a little bit rough compared to what I do now with my modelling, so I have improved, I guess, more than I thought. And there's some very early attempts at animation and facial changes as well from me. God, you can really tell I'm reading from a script here. We've got the Bachman, Thomas and Annie and Clarabelle as well. They just look so much better than the Hornby ones, even though this has the Hornby face on it. The face I got did come with a little nick, so I just sort of painted over it. You can really tell that I've now got the same face, got the same model, but just repainted the face entirely. That's the interesting operational thing about this layout, is it required 2 controllers to get over that 3-way point. So you'd have to set them both to the same speed on each side for the train to go through seamlessly, otherwise it would just slow down, speed up, lurch. It was a little bit of an art in itself, and it's kind of put me off using 3-way points because they were pretty finicky. But anyway, back to the story. It's actually a fairly simple story. It's just Thomas having a little accident on some points. Good starting point, I guess, for a pilot, and I did get more adventurous later on. That is something that I really hoped to improve over the years, is my ability to inflect and change tone. I still have some trouble with it, but coming back as the night train meant I really had to focus and get comfortable with how I sound, and yeah, I think I've made some progress there as well. Not the right kind of whistle tone for that incident, but we'll let it go. A butchered wooden railway face from the age before shapeways prints were a thing. That sounds like something that should have been picked up before this version of Ffarquhar was opened, Sir Topham, but by and by. Hey, Ertl Bertie, we know I love a good Ertl. Oh, and that string got me a lot of flack back in the day. Everyone was like, you can see the string, you can see the string. And I was like, it's a pilot. I've just moved into university. I don't have money spare to just do a proper production. But yeah, I changed out to fishing line after that. It's not fair to just hold everyone to the highest standard possible. People do what they can manage. Constructive criticism needs to be phrased as such. Oh, that classic ending music. On to the next episode. There we go, we can see the engines coming into the board. That makes such a difference to the play value. And my first generation salt wagons. These were the classic Hornby line wagons that I just picked up for like £2 or £3 and repainted. And yep, some more wooden railway truck faces. I sacrificed so many Thomas toys just to peel the faces off, it's unreal. Some of those face pastes are not the best, are they? But they serve their purpose. I still have that Ffarquhar Mining Company office building. That's going to go on something at least. There you go, a little bit of railway realism for you. I did always try and put it in wherever I could with these episodes. I just wanted to recapture the spirit of, you know, the classic Thomas story writing. Ooh, that was a hideous clump of blue tack, holding them in place. Oh, those thick wheel flanges jumped on the points, don't they? And the first accident I ever filmed. Yeah, it's not the best executed Thomas project ever, but dare I say it, you can see the Thomas charm. So Topham, you don't sound pissed. Sound a bit more pissed. I should sound a bit more pissed. Oh god, everybody helps my Everybody hates my puns, but sod you, I like puns. Right, on to episode 3. This is where I decided to sort of dive a little bit deeper into Thomas' lore, into some of the things that weren't expanded in the show. It was always mentioned, in Bulgy's episode that Bulgy had friends, and we never saw Bulgy's friends in any way, pretty much, from what I recall, except maybe in some magazine stories, but, you know, whether you view them as soft or hard canon is up to you. So I thought I would reuse Bulgy and have a like-for-like friend who was named Olgy. That way I could use my Ertl Bulgy without it being Bulgy, who should be stranded in a field. There you go, you could see I was using fishing line at this point. Slow-mo accident. There's the fishing line, just as obvious as the string if you ask me. Definitely obvious.
Fancy being an engine for a change, Thomas chortled. You opted the breakdown truck and bird.
Hello, Butch. Ah, yeah, some hook, some chain, and blue tack. What more do you need? Lurch, lurch. There's plenty of play value in Ertl as well as models. Mix the two together and it's just fantastic. Here we go, Archie's allies. It became a little bit of a two-parter story, I think. This is where I sort of really got into the continuity of my own series. Horrid lorries, Trackmaster Oliver, which I've since weathered and detailed. Oh yeah, this is where I brought the horrid lorries in. I really like the horrid lorries, and they blocked all the lines. Talk about a rebellion. Oh, Ertl, Jack and Alfie, those were very late additions to my collection. The pack members were never ones I saw as a kid, but saw as an adult, and I just loved the little bit of trivia that they used to play like Robot Wars with them behind the scenes because they were so big and were fully remote control. God, I'd love to see a cage match between Alfie and Oliver. Here we go, another, well, the first custom Thomas engine that I actually included in my series. I had Boko and Diesel 10 by this point, but I hadn't folded them into my writing yet because I was writing episodes continuously. This was when Harvey was still running on a Dapol Pug chassis, which I think does look better than the Bachmann Percy one he's on now, but the Bachmann one is far more reliable. This was also the first episode where I filmed off of the board on a temporary set. And boy do they look slightly cheap by comparison. It's very small, you can see the edges. But it did allow me to do a very fun accident at least. There we go. Percy raced into the yard seconds later, just as Thomas emerged from the tunnel. Percy's truck smashed into the van and derailed. That's a proper accident. Oh, little flash of hand there. Oh, this is, yeah, Series 1 vibe there. Series 5 meets Series 1.
I'm sorry, my brakes failed, Percy gasped. You prevented a terrible accident. Yes, by making one. Harvey laughed.
What's the saying? Sometimes you need to break a few eggs to make an omelette. There you go. Episode 6, Butch Bites Back. I remember the ending of this one causing quite a stir back in the day. There you go. A temporary level crossing and temporary road, which was just a strip of sandpaper-like material.
A lorry sped recklessly across the level crossing, only to lose control and crash into a hedge.
Oh yeah, is that a Metcalf or a super quick bridge? There goes Bear. A Bear cameo. He was, I think, my 4th custom. Yeah, the ending of this one. They just took the lorry and scrapped it. Now that we know how Sir Topham was in Series 5, this hits a little bit differently. We know he could potentially have been that savage in the show. That's a Continental flatbed. I wonder what happened to that. Where did that go?
Sorry for the
Or
lorry.
did I just borrow it from my dad? I think that was a Continental tank flatbed.
The lorry was to stay there, and if someone bought it before it was broken up, it would have hope.
Yeah, there you go. Horrid Lorry 3 dies.
The lorries and Archie's drivers
Yeah, there we go. Using some lore from the actual Silent Sodor map to explain where they bugger off to. Yeah, I was a right little nerd when writing these, but you have to be because there's nerds watching them. Yeah. Here we go, episode 7. This is sort of a series 2 part of Ffarquhar Yards because I changed the intro, I changed the theme. I made this theme out of samples from a trial of a music software that I downloaded back in the day. This is where I brought in Stepney, Neville, Boko. Yeah, it's where it really became its own. And yet Alsborough Harbour Studios came in as narrator and narrated the rest of the series, and they did a fantastic job.
Thomas the Tank Engine chuffs into the station.
Yeah, there we go. It sounds far better than I ever did, honestly. Yeah, pairing Stepney with Helena and Victoria. I didn't have enough room for bogey coaches, as you can probably tell, so I just mimed the heck out of four-wheel coaches that were in the show and the Railway series. And he just felt like a really natural pairing for Stepney. I still have all of those models, and you can see Stepney now has his lamp irons. He just painted chunks of paperclip, if I remember correctly.
Oh, well, Caroline
It's
replied,
Caroline.
"It isn't the engine that ruined my circuits." Stepney even
And
pulled into
another
Knapford
station
Junction,
set,
where
Knapford Junction.
connection.
I was never going to have the room to model Knapford, so I took a little bit of inspiration from Knapford Junction in the Railway series. So that meant I can bring in bogey coaches and Bear, and I would just make this on the floor of my mini dorm, apartment, whatever you want to call it. Take it up when I was done. It's all temporary scenery.
Oh, sorry about
Bear has moved on to pastures anew
my
now.
hydrokinetic transmission unit transfers power to back in the yard. The truck controller couldn't think what had
All
happened.
about Thomas the
He
Tank
checked his
Engine.
schedules
What
and
more do you
things
need for running a railway?
I don't know. Just then,
Oh, the
Stepney
missing
came into the
coaches.
junction. Surprised? Oh, what surprise?
Oh yeah, this is how I introduced Neville into the series.
But Percy still felt put upon.
Put upon Percy. I loved that episode as a kid. Of course I threw it in here. A reference at least.
It's a friend who's visited Sodor briefly before.
Briefly before, very briefly. Like for 3 minutes in an 8-minute episode, briefly.
Though I must admit I have missed your annoying engines. Replacement for what? Lorries that were causing problems, Percy exclaimed. I am a lorry, Elizabeth fumed. What do you
Percy
mean I'm
makes
being replaced?
such cute mistakes.
And who are you to say who causes problems? You've had pregnancy of your own, I hear.
There you go, you can see a little bit of my dorm just from that angle there. That's a little bit of poor directing on my part.
He's a southern tender engine who can manage trains usually only given to the large engines, despite only having 6 dry wheels. And he can run forwards and backwards with no difference in strength. That does sound like an impressive engine.
The Q1's always got such a bad rap, and they were such impressive engines. Such a shame that they're no longer running. Well, the preserved one is no longer running. Still got my Q1, but I've renumbered it for the preserved example. Still got Neville's face though. I do prefer the idea of Neville being the preserved Q1, even if his number doesn't really add up in the show. And my first attempts with colour grading changes. Very basic. I thought it looked great back in the day, but it's just basic.
Neville is a Q1 goods engine.
City of Truro's theme is now Neville's theme, apparently.
Topham had loaned him to the mainland, and now he was hard at work.
It doesn't look regal, but the music sounds it. Oh
Oh
look, new temporary set.
Every journey went smoothly. He made many trips from the quarry to the junction.
Ah, Stephen, then back when he actually ran, he doesn't anymore.
He handled the work with ease.
Oh, cylinders look a little bit like nipples now. I don't know if I can put that in the video.
Blue bells. This line is fantastic.
Neville's nipples, there's an interesting title for you.
Purple dot.
Here we
One
go.
morning, Thomas was waiting at the junction for a signal.
This was when I got my Backman Bill and Ben.
Come
I've always
on,
found the
Bill.
twins really
What's
fun.
the hold up? Then from the
Oh,
tunnel,
look, there
Thomas
they
heard
are.
two familiar whistles.
Just sitting in the tunnel waiting for his cue.
Out of the tunnel chuffed 2 small tank engines.
I had to try and shade it with books and things and folders to make it look like a tunnel. Bill, Ben and Neville. That's a combo. Oh, bullet leader
Square
reference.
like one, Ben replied, but it's steaming. Maybe it's a steam engine they forgot to finish building.
Might be a bullet leader.
Excuse me, but I'm an austerity engine, Neville cut across. Bed with as little as possible, but strong for my size. Ha ha ha, austerity, Bill laughed. I wouldn't study you given the choice. Both twins went off laughing.
Oof, yeah.
Bill and Ben
That sounds like a proper Bill and Ben line.
Both realised how small the yard actually was. Neville just watched.
Oh, savage.
The twins became
There you go. That is when you don't get the speed right with the controllers. And again. He actually hit the trucks.
Calm down now, he said. If you spare those trucks, Duck won't be happy. Using up coal
Bill
to
and
get
Ben
here
are just
only to find he
rockets.
has no load to take back. Cool your corner, Steam Square, Ben laughed. We know what words are aimed. We can rush in and out of sidings to shunt. You're too big to do any real work here.
There you go. Small layout reference.
Until there's a train for you to pull. We don't want you to get in our way. And they went back to work the yard. They were very rough and spilt some fuel on the rails.
Where?
Neville entered the yard, pulling another train
What
towards
fuel?
the junction. Ben cheekily sped out, pushing a vent wagon.
Ah, that vent wagon just caused so many problems, didn't
right
it?
Towards Neville. Ben closed his eyes, but it was too late. He crashed right into Neville's side. Luckily, neither of them was derailed, but Neville's tender was buckled inwards. and
Thankfully
his
not,
side
otherwise I
was
would have ruined the model.
I'm so
That
sorry,
mouth.
Ben cried. I didn't
Whoopsies.
realise the rails were slippery. We'll sort this out. As you should. A boy threw him from the yard.
Magic controller has...
You two
The
are being very
that controller has spawned in like magic. The magic controller. How is that not a story idea that they capitalised on? I think this is a great episode because it focuses on a lot of the side characters rather than Thomas, Percy, Duck, Bill, Ben, Neville, Boko. Boko's arrived. Harvey.
Fan favourite is here.
This is the real strength of Thomas and the Island of Sodor as a universe. I can see why I wanted to capitalise on it back then. How did the salt wagon not get marked up as damaged? Oh well. Percy digs his wheels in.
Him, Stepney and Boko to keep the branch line running. Boko filled in for Thomas, helping Stepney take passengers, leaving Percy with most of the goods work. The Fat Controller didn't trust Bill and Ben to help out.
I wonder why.
Shunting in the yard. On top of all this, the trucks were giving Percy more trouble than ever. After his accident, they teased him
Flashback
ruthless,
time.
shredding to
Bang.
bits any authority he had over them. Come on, he groaned, pushing the silly trucks into place. Why can't you behave?
Why can't you stop passing us about?
The truck
Early
controller
audio
You can't control
editing there from me.
yourself for that matter.
I may not be strong, Percy replied, but if I know one
God,
thing,
my production
it's
really
I've more sense
improved
than you
for the
lot
magic within,
combined.
didn't it?
And he biffed the truck into place. Boko watched from the platform. If the truck
Boko
got
just
over,
looks scarred for life
I'll
by
take
that.
for more tips. Pulling more and shorter trains while
Oh, is it really bad that I want to make another Ffarquhar layout?
they banged and rocked
Let me know
and
if you want to
shook
see me
Percy
make
so
another
hard
Ffarquhar
he thought
layout.
he'd fall apart.
I know there are a dime a dozen nowadays. That model railway guy's doing one.
Pushed him.
The Talaclim one's on the circuit as
He
well,
returned
but
to the yard,
should I?
fuming.
Should
Why
I?
can't you just
Hmm.
behave?
Because
The truck sneered.
Yeah, squeaky
it's
truck.
funny watching you turn from a green caterpillar into a red one.
Percy thought he had reached the end of his piston rod. And now
God, I
he
really
was
got the
smashing
trucks down
to
in this
pieces.
one. And Bill and
Bill
Ben.
and Ben decided to wade into the situation.
Oh no, here they come.
We can't help but notice you're having a spot of bother with them. Bill said, we've never had trouble with trucks, Ben added. Why no, we're just...
It's hard to believe that my take on Bill and Ben here predates their introduction in CGI. Does it? No, it doesn't. Scratch that. It doesn't. You can tell that they were influenced a lot by their return in CGI in my series.
And they won't risk finding out if he can. The cheeky twins scuttled off, leaving Percy
Yeah,
pondering.
that was great, getting them both in time
The
together.
next day,
Hey,
Percy
Mr. Bean again. Pulled up by the Fat Controller and the police.
He
Oh, God.
scolded them when they
Oh,
stopped
Donald
the
and
truck.
Douglas. This is when I got them.
You better behave yourselves or I'll...
When I did this, I really went about trying to flesh out my cast with all the classic characters, even if just in cameos. And then by the time I got to the Magic Within, I had a great sandbox.
The trucks just laughed and laughed into place.
Ah, yeah, it was Tidmouth, that set, wasn't it?
The buttons gave way and they crashed into a
There we go, another fishing line.
Luckily, nobody
Crap.
was hurt, but the truck sat dazed and confused.
Percy felt
I've still got those
thought
tractors.
the trucks deserved it.
They're in the farmyard corner
Jack
at the
and
moment.
Alfie helped dig the trucks out, who were feeling very sorry for themselves. Alfie scraped away some gravel and found
Here we
something
go. Fossil dinosaurs come back into the mix yet again. You can really tell what my interests are and how consistent they are throughout the years. That dinosaur is going in my natural history museum that I'm building for the layout I've got at the moment.
Jack gasped looking at the skeleton. The trucks were shocked. They didn't know the dinosaur was dead, but they could just imagine how scary it was.
Dead. The word dead in Thomas. Can't do that nowadays.
Don't touch us. We don't want to crash the
The skeleton was carefully dug out and carefully
Plastered in blue tack.
back at the
You
yard.
use what you've got, I guess.
Quickly unveiled. None of the other engines
Start.
and neither did Percy.
You could tell I was starting to work on the magic within by this point in the series, because that was the only reason I got darts. And then on to episode 12, Clarabelle the Brake Van. I think this was the last episode in my original planned run of Ffarquhar Yards before I then decided to just make a couple more because I really fancied them. Ending it as we started, Thomas, Annie and Clarabelle. This is something I'm surprised they never capitalised on in the show, a sort of carriage versus truck rivalry. Did we ever see that? I don't think we did. God, after 80 years and we never saw something like that.
What are these big orange timber hobcos doing here? This yard should
They have no chill. Uh-oh. That three-way point causes so many problems in this take on Farquhar. I liked how I got Harvey's chain to have the ability to extend and hook onto things. Wasn't very good at getting it taut, but it did have at least that feature. Surely surely Clarabelle needed to go to the works after that. Wood can't stand up to that kind of force, can it?
Miss, I have a guard's compartment. The guard can use my brakes to keep the trucks under control.
This is another concept I'm surprised they never used in the show. Brake coaches as brake vans because of a shortage or something.
Try, sir, but
I guess once they got used to just not using brake vans in the hit era, they just waved any sort of idea like that away. Oh, nighttime shots. These were new for me at this point. Oh my god, what's in that signal box? Is it the sun? A white star or something? Oh yeah, this was a Magic Within set I made use of in this episode, with my take on the rock star in the background. Hey, Neville! But the Backman, Clarabelle doesn't have a guards compartment, so you just have to imagine it. It works in universe, but not with the models, but it was still a good story idea. Right, episode 13, when I sort of tried my hand at clickbait. It worked. Your fault. Yeah, there is no shark in this episode, but we do venture down to Brendam Docks for sort of the first time. And we have a story about Stephen. Stephen was always one of my favourite characters introduced in CGI. I'm still hacked off that the Earl's Railway Museum storyline didn't go anywhere, because who else could we have gotten? Video on that coming soon. That's a very bare bones Brendam Docks, but it does its job. It did its job at the time. And Giraffe Wagon! Oh yeah, that takes us back.
No need to be rude, Stephen replied.
Mr. Giraffe.
Why aren't you helping? You could at least move some of
We all
this
love
cargo
Mr. Giraffe,
away. It'll
don't
make
we?
my life much easier. He's an old engine cranky. Boko cuts him as he
So Boko belongs. Brendam Docks on the Brendam branch line.
This kind of work, then he's a waste of space. Cranky.
Oof, cranky.
Get him out to my way.
Dial it down.
Hey, beg pardon, but you were the one who disturbed me. Stephen pointed out. And if I remember correctly, you told Thomas this line was too far out for you to reach, so I can't be in your way.
Cranky
I
Bugs
can reach out
reference.
there, Cranky protested. Go on. But Cranky
Calling his
didn't
bluff.
listen. He turned away and got back to work. He could reach. He reversed back under the shed so he wasn't in the way.
Oh yeah, you can see Stephen struggling there. He only just ran after I managed to get him going.
Cranky was not happy.
God, I think it might have been actually after this episode that he just conked out and wouldn't run again. I've still got him as a static model. I would love a Stephen that runs again. Backman, do your thing. You've got the birthday coach now. Make Stephen. Boko kills Stephen in other stories.
And the only thing between Stephen and the sea was a pair of buffers. Bravely, Stephen puffed forwards and buffered up to... I'll have to be, Stephen groaned, but Boko kept
That's the
pushing.
metal Stephen's made of.
He drew closer and closer to the water.
Or in this case, a blue bedsheet.
Almost there.
God, that was just a sort of gravel map on books. Or was it the edge of a desk? I can't remember. Tale of the Brave reference there. And Cranky's got new respect for Stephen. That's everything you need in a story. Harvey saves the day yet again. I couldn't afford to make Rocky. Harvey just can lift anything.
But Cranky helped me as well. He could have just let us go and then no one would be in his way. I guess. Cranky agreed. But
Cranky not a psychopath confirmed.
you who my person today is so stronger than me. So I'm sure you'll do fine without me.
Oh, Stephen the smart-ass.
And Cranky fuming in the sky.
Right, episode 14. This is one of the ones from the scripts that I sort of wrote together that I did actually make. See, we got a new intro as well because this was when I was filming The Magic Within. You've got Frida there, who was made for the TCC. I had Mavis at that point as well, and that really nice sort of Elsbridge-like bridge. This was me just coming back to sort of put some caps on things to do with the Ffarquhar Yard series. That's a very serious one. And Fergus, he was an interesting custom to make. He was a Oxford Rail steam road-going traction engine that I converted with bullet wheels and a good chunk of plastic hard. And it did the job. He does the job. He looks like a little bit like Blue Circle. And that's a capsule Plarail face on him as well that I accidentally caught with the Dremel disc. But, you know, I wasn't going to import another one just to correct that. But I do have capsule Plarail figures at this point instead of the little Tommy ones.
Great choice, sir, Fergus agreed. I'll do it.
Fergus is Blue Circle, confirmed in canon. Well, in Ffarquhar Yard's canon anyway. Oh, there's Patrick. I did have a story about Patrick and Fergus. We'll go into that in a bit. Duke! God, I can't wait for Cato Duke if and when that becomes a thing. Hit Era Transfer Yard. That was brave of me to include that. The Hit Era looks a lot better compared to the crap we've got with All Engines Go, so I'm going to cut it some slack. Again, more videos on that coming soon.
I was made to shunt at the... But you could see the children weren't listening. They got on board. Don't mind them.
And the Fast and the Fergus was such a fun episode title. I was like, I have to make that one. Horrific blue tack. God, I really should have just used tacky wax. My original Scarloey model that burnt out very quickly after I finished it. That's been sold on. Yeah, Fergus was unpowered. He was just being operated completely on fishing wire.
That'd be more exciting. I hope we can run into an elephant or something. That'd be cool to see. This is just boring.
Wild George and Wild Caroline.
He wanted them to have a good...
I don't think I actually had my Ffarquhar Yard set at this point, so everything was, hey, we got actual oil on the tracks this time, which looks a lot like soy sauce. Might be soy sauce.
His wheels were coated and he was sent hurtling down the hill. Fergus's driver tried to brake, but they were going too fast. Oh,
That was an interesting one to set up, a full gradient and trying to keep the track flat at the same time.
Fergus's driver braked again.
All the ballast on the temporary sets was just Wilkinson's cat litter. Right shape, right size, right shade. Ah, it's the custom Ryan that was made by the World of Sodor before the Bachmann one came out.
Luckily, no one was hurt. Hi.
Oh.
Hello.
Ah, this is when I had the breakdown crane, so Harvey had some helping hands.
You're not one
Ah, and my capsule Plarail Winston with the Wickham trolley wheels on it. I've detailed Winston since then, so he's got a little bit more of his sort of trim and seats and an interior. Edward, Edward.
Fergus felt ashamed.
Stepney!
Cheer up.
And Bradford. Got a Bradford cameo now. I painted that up, and the face was made for me by Sudbury and Railway Modeler over in the States. That was really kind of him. I would be interested in seeing Bachman's take on Bradford, though. Seems like a slam dunk, and Bradford has never had any merchandise. Oh, that's some nasty track bending. Ooh. And now on to the final episode, which I decided to make a Halloween special, and this one was inspired by the railway accident on the Boston Bridge from 1891. That's a really spooky one. People were saying they've heard the accident, they've seen a railway employee ghost, and on the 50th anniversary of an accident, people thought they could hear the train crash off the bridge, hear the screaming of the wounded. It was really eerie. So I thought, that sounds perfect for a extended Halloween episode of Ffarquhar Yards.
The smaller tank engines admire his can-do ethic and no-nonsense attitude.
Duck and Henry as well. I thought that was a fantastic pairing for this one as well.
Who thought he was often too big for his own buffers. Henry, who had suffered one of Duck's pranks, thought he always
Oh yeah, tenders for Henry reference right there.
There's a reason you haven't taken the express or kipper, Henry said one evening. You're not the right material. Us bigger engines are made of it, but not
Henry
you.
being a bit of a prick was the best version of Henry, not the silly hypochondriac version we got in CGI. See, I think I'd mastered the nighttime scenes by this point. This just looks so much better. A lot of those trees I've now just put on my layout upstairs. Bradford has a face. Oh yeah, we've got the official Thomas signal box now as well, which I've still got. Ooh, mystery machine! Scooby-Doo Thomas crossover.
Felt slightly embarrassed. He began on his way again.
I love that little soundbite of Fred. Oh, there we go, we've got a haunted viaduct. My Reneus burnt out as well shortly after this, and I repainted it into Smudger, who, you know, is most of the time derailed or stationary anyway. Oh yeah, and this was a bit of world building. We got Neil. We never found out what happened to Neil, but in this canon, at least, in my series canon, he is now a ghost. What's scarier than a box-shaped engine in the night? Of course it is. Speak of the devil?
I've dealt with ghosts before.
Yeah, Old
There's no
Bailey.
such thing. I'll go down there tonight on my way back to the sheds.
There we go, another Duke cameo. I still have Duke, but he just never ran the best. He was all die-cast, but the N-gauge chassis just couldn't seem to adhere when he was given anything to pull.
Oh, it's forested. It'll make a nice change, Henry answered. But really, he didn't want to be shown up by Duck for a second time.
Oh, pride is at stake. God, I loved the Series 5 Halloween episodes. I'm so glad I did something in that vein. The quality of this is just so much better than that very first episode. It's astonishing. Still not perfect, but God, you can see the difference. Same sound effect. Tilted camera. Ooh. I was really playing with camera work by this point as well, and I had the massive backdrops. Oh, there's the ghost.
And an engine lying in the undergrowth. There! It's the ghost train! Can you see it? Where? On top of the bushes!
And that is how Henry became afraid of the dark.
Duck was there. How was your trip, Henry?
Of course.
Enjoy the detour. If you're trying to scare me, Duck, you're the ghastliest thing I've seen all night, Henry retorted with a brave face.
The burn.
He went back to his sheds, knowing what he'd seen and wishing it never had. I don't think Henry will ever be the same again, do you?
What a note to end on. And the theme tune kicks in. Oh dear. And I've got the little message at the end. Thank you to everyone that's been watching from the beginning. I hope you enjoyed the journey. I did. And I did relive Classic Thomas. I think I achieved my mission here. So that was Ffarquhar Yards, the series, and honestly, I think the stories and the writing hold up better than I was expecting them to. Maybe that's just me patting myself on the back, but in terms of capturing the essence of the classic series of Thomas, it does. I think it does. Yeah. But diving back into a few more bits to do with Ffarquhar Yards, we've got a couple of images that I've got of my old Nun Thomas trains on the layout. The J52 Stepney, a Hornby Thomas as well with a smokebox door instead of a face. That was part of my Nun Thomas fleet for a while, and then I just used my Bachmann one so much by comparison, so again, that one was passed on to a new home as well. It was just a lovely little layout. It was. Again, it had its shortcomings. I couldn't run very long trains of any description. The station was a prescribed length. But yeah, it was a nice step up. It was an intermediate between my first and the layout I'm doing now. And yeah, it was good fun. Good fun filming with it. Now, I did say, hold my hand on this, that I did have more episodes of Ffarquhar Yards planned that I just didn't make. And these number, I think it's about 11, 12. And I know I have made these publicly available before for people to use if they wanted to. I don't think anyone ever actually took me up on that offer. But I've never actually spoken about them on the channel before. So for a lot of you watching, this may just be completely new information, but I did have almost enough episodes written to double the number of the ones I actually made, and I think these ones just got cut for various reasons. Either they were too ambitious in terms of sets, would have taken too long, the engines I might have had issues with, and I guess just the nexus of time, resources and money just meant that these never actually happened. But I'm going to go through them anyway, because I think it's nice to see what was going through my head when I was writing them, and we'll just sort of see what your opinions are. Should I have made them? Are there any gems in here that you're going to get mad at me for cutting? We'll find out. So the first episode I've got that I didn't make is actually part of a two-parter around Boko. For a number of these episodes, I took inspiration from some of the Thomas magazine stories as well. And this was one of the ones that wholeheartedly was expanded from a magazine idea. So it's called A New Driver, and it's about Boko getting a new driver who's still cutting his teeth, getting used to the job, and isn't actually the best driver yet. Sort of like the Fat Controller and Winston. We have Boko getting a new driver as his old one's retiring. The driver's only ever driven steam engines before, he's never driven a diesel, and is just trying to get used to Boko's controls. I guess this one was a little bit too unrealistic. People would have trained to be one or the other, or retrained before they just dive into driving a brand new engine. But as a result of this, Boko's trains were late, the Fat Controller was lenient, but the other engines decide to tease Boko because of it. Boko does try and help his driver by giving him tips, but the driver doesn't want to be told what to do by his own engine, understandably. This eventually leads to some issues, and Boko goes down the wrong line as a result, and the Fat Controller is not happy about that and thinks the issues should have been ironed out by this point that aren't, so he's kind of put the pair of them on notice. And it sort of finishes on a cliffhanger leading into the next episode, which is called A Second Chance. Boko and his driver are at loggerheads. His driver's too proud and stubborn. The other engines find a way to make jokes out of it. If Boko's on time, it'll be a miracle, if he gets here at all. The trucks also get in on the act as well, making fun of Boko. And even the passengers start talking about it as well, and it doesn't look good on the railway. But then they stumble across something on the line. Boko tells his driver exactly what controls to use, and they work together to avoid a nasty accident. So everyone sort of is forgiven. Boko and his driver begin working together, and eventually things just go as smoothly as they did with his old driver. So it was a nice little two-parter. Perhaps not the most realistic, but it certainly gave Boko an interesting predicament for a little bit of character growth. This next one I remember quite vividly. It's called Cabs and Collapses, and it brings together Donald and Douglas and Bill and Ben, two sets of twins that we never really saw interact in the show, and that for me felt like it held great potential. In a gist, the twins decide to make fun of Donald and Douglas's brash and serious attitude. Bill and Ben don't take it very well. They start squabbling. Douglas, it says here, calls Bill and Ben squashed lemons, which horrifies them because no one has ever been so plain with them before. And I think that was a funny thing for Bill and Ben to go up against. And they explain it's because of their quarry line, but Donald doesn't believe them. And when Donald and Douglas decide to head down that line, one of the twins hits a bridge that's very low, and Bill and Ben have to come and rescue them before the bridge then collapses. Everybody learns an important lesson, that Bill and Ben can be serious in themselves and try and help, and that just because someone is small or diminutive or looks different to you, it doesn't mean you need to put them down because you find them annoying. So the twins bond, actually come over their differences, and it was a fun little story, sort of playing on Bill and Ben's design for another Thomas-esque accident, pretty much. Why didn't I make this one? I just don't think I had everything to make a realistic quarry set and bridge for the accident to take place on. But it's one that I would have liked to have managed to make back in the day. This next one also was going to make use of a set that I just didn't really have the means to use, and it was going to be the cement works, where Fergus works, and also Patrick. Patrick the cement mixer, Fergus from the cement works. Put those two together in a story. That would have made perfect sense for the main show. Fergus, one day, hears an alarm and something's wrong. Turns out that there's an emergency procedure, they need to evacuate. Fergus takes the workers out in a truck, and it turns out that there was a fire at the works, and Fergus begins getting a little bit worried that someone has broken the rules. We know what Fergus is like with his rules and making sure everyone does things right. Nobody knows who broke the rules, how the fire broke out, and Fergus starts to get a little bit nervous, and self-doubt creeps in, and he starts to doubt that he was actually doing everything right himself. He thinks that he might have done something wrong and not even realised it. And he starts to fear that if it's found out that it was him, he'll be sent packing and lose the cement works that he's the pride of. So Fergus gets a little bit jittery about this investigation that's going on. The investigators eventually come to talk to him, and they are puzzled because they were looking for a road traction engine and found a railway traction engine. Fergus wonders why it matters, and it turns out the perpetrator that caused the fire was a road vehicle. Road traction engine? No, it wasn't Trevor. It was Patrick. The inspectors go to see Patrick because someone reversed into the pipes delivering heat from the kiln to the raw material chambers, and that Patrick was the only vehicle in the area that day. Patrick, though, is completely stunned, owns up. He says that he never realised he damaged anything, but did find the loading area a tight space and struggled to turn around. So Fergus in the end feels sorry for him, but Patrick is barred from the plant until his driver's abilities are confident and as up to scratch as they should be. Fergus then chimes in and says that as the repairs haven't happened yet from the fire, can they not just rebuild the space to include a larger loading bay for Patrick? And that would let everyone be careful, have the space they need, and stop it happening again. So from this, Patrick, Fergus form a strong bond and friendship at the cement works, and yeah, I don't know, I just felt like playing on Fergus's anxieties around making sure everything was done right, and the self-doubt he might actually hold, lent itself to a great story. But again, it was the lack of means of actually making a scale cement works that meant I had to write this one off. Right, next one is Film Fame, and this was another, I think, loose adaptation of a magazine story idea, and it revolves around Wilbert. and follows on from another cut story of mine. What did I cut it? I can't remember. Anyway, it features Green Arrow and Wilbert, and after a sort of little event, they start working the line for a bit. Frida was fed into this one because I had the model following TCC work that I was doing. And while there's a film crew filming Frida, Wilbert stops a runaway coach and ends up accidentally becoming the star of the footage that was being shot, in a nutshell. When it came to cutting episodes and focusing on those I actually wanted to make, this one wasn't as high up the list as the others, so I just put it to one side and never made it. I've got another one here, another sort of Halloween-y, spooky themed episode about the Flying Scotsman coming to Sodor as part of this show event thing, but being very up himself, kind of like Gordon. Until he and Bear get talking about the Scotsman's trip to the States and how he heard about mysterious creatures like Bigfoot that roam their forests. And while Scotsman's travelling across Sodor at night, he sees something that reminds him of this all too much, and yeah, he loses track of his speed, and then a point ahead of him is broken and he derails into the foliage, leaving his pride and prestige sort of in tatters. Again, I think it was a toss-up between this one and Duck and Henry's Dark Ride in terms of making a spooky episode, and I just preferred the other one and went and made that one instead. Hide and Seek. This was where Bill and Ben tricked Paxton into hiding in the yard from the Fat Controller using rolling stock and just making the yard a mess. And the Fat Controller is none too pleased that Bill and Ben have played a trick on him. I already had a lot of Bill and Ben episodes in the series, so yeah, I wanted to use Paxton, but Bill and Ben again, I guess that's why I didn't make this one. And I guess it's why I gave Paxton a bit of a bigger role in The Magic Within as well, because I really liked that character, I really wanted to use it. And this first attempt at trying to use Paxton just wasn't quite what I wanted, so I didn't make that one either. Monkey Business. This was another loose magazine adaptation about Daisy and Boko, because I made a Daisy out of a Triang Class 101, much like Audrey did, cut off the end, put a fresh end on. And again, we never got a Daisy and Boko story in the entire show. So seeing these two go head to head, Boko with his no-nonsense attitude of managing Bill and Ben, Daisy with her far more, let's just say, high-class way of thinking, those two would not have really seen eye to eye to begin with. And actually, I think we have got a delivery coming in, so surprise live unboxing, everybody. One moment. There we go, new model. What's it going to be? I mean, I know, but you don't know. You might not care. Let's see. What do you reckon it is? It's not an engine, it's a Hornby 4-wheel LBSC coach, because I rode on one at the Bluebell this year and I only buy coaches that I've ridden on. So there we go, that's another 4-wheel one for my Nun-Thomas fleet. Anyway, where were we? Daisy and Boko and some monkey business. So they get onto the topic of animals, because Boko says try carrying livestock from the animal park, or for the animal park. And Daisy thinks that sounds worse than taking the milk, and has flashbacks to Champion the Bull. Boko accuses her of being afraid of animals, and Daisy is cross. Yeah, but what no one noticed is that when she was working on the Brendam line, as she passed the animal park, a monkey managed to leap from a tree onto her roof, so she has a stowaway. The passengers then cry out in horror at the next station, and the monkey just starts rooting and swinging off of signs, and the Fat Controller and the station master come out to see what all the fuss is about. Neville pulls up with a goods train, and they manage to coax the monkey into one of the fruit vans. And Daisy then has to take it back to the animal park, as she's the only one heading in that direction, which pisses her right off. Daisy ends up taking the monkey back to the park, and the fruit wagon is left in an absolute mess by the monkey, and the engines all begin making fun about Daisy going ape when she realised that she had to take some livestock. So it was a fun one using Daisy and Boko, but again, just trying to model that with a 00 gauge monkey, it was too difficult, I think, and that's why I cut it. But I love animal stories, and speak of the devil, the cat has appeared. Hello. Anyway, while I try and coax the cat to make an appearance, on to the next one with Neville and Gordon. Another interesting pairing. In this one, we lean into Neville's literal strength as an engine because he was the highest, well, Q1s were the highest rated 060s that ever existed in the UK. The Fat Controller knows this, and he puts Neville onto jobs that would normally be allocated to much larger engines, much to Gordon's disdain. Still, the other engines rally behind Neville and go, size doesn't mean weak, we've seen what he can do, but Gordon just isn't having any of it. He's the big, strong engine that takes the Express. And yeah, he kind of feels personally infringed by Neville. And he starts digging at Neville's looks because Gordon's just that kind of dick. Neville's then eventually given the flying kipper to do because Henry's broken down. And Gordon doesn't think it's anything special, and 060's been given Henry's job. And then he's reminded that he would refuse to do it. And they remind him that Neville could easily pull the Express. So the next day, in order to prove that he's the biggest and strongest engine of all and that size does matter, Gordon decides to take an Express and a goods train all at once. I think you can see what happens next. Gordon gets stuck on his hill, as he tends to do, under less strenuous circumstances, and it's Neville that's sent to help him out. Shock horror. Neville manages to get the entire massive train moving, and yeah, Neville is told to finish the Express, and as punishment, Gordon is told to take the goods train by the Fat Controller, but he has no choice. That evening, Gordon apologises to Neville, who actually managed to do a good job with the Express, but Neville owns up, saying, "I'm not as fast as you, the Express is your job," and they make peace with each other. So there's a little bit of Super Rescue in here, there's a little bit of Edward and Gordon in here. It's all based around real-life engine strengths and habits and workloads. But I think the thing that killed this one was I could not and did not have the space to put together an Express goods train combined and film that on a set that hides its edges. That was just too tall an order. So unfortunately, as much as I liked this pairing, I couldn't make it. And the cat's gone outside, so sorry, no visit from Reef today. Anyway, 3 scripts left for me to tell you about. And the next one brings together Stepney and Fergus, and again, we're back at the cement works, so you can already guess why this one wasn't made. Stepney visits the cement works to help out and stays over with Fergus, but while they're there, they hear a wailing sound that they'd never heard before. Both engines are not sure whether to go out and look for the source, but eventually they decide that they will go and have a look. And that's when they discover that not only is the source of the noise real, because it happens 2 nights in a row, but that it's actually a fox that's become trapped in the cement works and is calling to try and find a way out. They help the fox, and the following night they're able to sleep peacefully knowing there wasn't a ghost on site. They're sad when Stepney has to leave, but they're glad that they got to work together again after knowing each other from their Bluebell days, as highlighted in an episode I did make. So yeah, again, it was just my ambitions with the set were too much with this one. I already had a Halloween themed episode I preferred, so this one was left as a script and nothing more. And our penultimate script is actually a complete narrow gauge story. There was going to be a narrow gauge episode of Ffarquhar Yards around Skarloey, Rheneas and Duke, who we've seen that I did have. And this one was about Duke being a little bit too up himself with the old Skarloey and Rheneas, saying that he needs to keep them in line as well. He's technically older, knows how to handle certain goods from the mid-Sodor, and because of this, the Thin Controller gives Duke the job of taking a gunpowder train. Skarloey and Rheneas are put on slate duty, which is what they're good at, but they fancied something different and are annoyed at being shunted again for his grace, so to speak, so there is some animosity. Unfortunately, there is a near-miss incident with Duke's gunpowder train, showing Duke that not everything goes to plan despite all of the wisdom he holds, and that he should be politer to other engines no matter how old they are. So it was another little interesting tale for Duke, and also Skarloey and Rheneas. But the unreliability of all my kit-built narrow-gauge engines on temporary sets I had to build made this one a little bit too tall of an order for me to produce. Duke, as I've said, was never the best runner. Skarloey packed up eventually, Rheneas packed up eventually. The Bachmann narrow-gauge stuff was not out yet at this point, I don't think, or had just been announced, and it was literally only Skarloey. So, yeah, I had to leave this one behind, but it did have a fun title of Stick to Your Guns, which is what Duke does, and what happens with his gunpowder train, and it's something that he learns that he needs to drop in terms of it being a habit. Hello? Meow? Coming up? Coming up? Oh, hello, and Reef has actually decided to appear now. Say hello. Say hello. Are we a railway cat? Are we a railway cat? Are we going to sit on my lap? There we go. Evil villain mode with a cat on my lap. Settle down. There you go. So, right now I have to multitask. So my final script that I never made actually revolves around Toad, the brake van of all characters. And Toad gets paired up with a couple of other brake vans in a brake van special because I thought it would be fun to have Toad, Bradford and the Spiteful brake van all in the same train. Toad is happy about the opportunity, but the Spiteful brake van does not like the idea of carrying passengers for fun and thinks that it belittles his important purpose as a brake van. In the train ride itself, the Spiteful brake van causes the cavalcade of brake vans to break away, and Toad is the one that has the initiative to get his brakes on and to save all of their passengers pretty much. So he's commended, the Spiteful brake van is scolded, but now has a massive dislike for Toad in particular and wants to pay him back. So this was one of those episodes where I saw it leading into a future story arc with the Spiteful brake van perhaps teaming up with Scruffy to deal with Toad. You know, mutual hatred makes friends. But yeah, I just never got around to making it. It wasn't as exciting to me as some of the other scripts. So yeah, I left that one on the cutting room floor as well. So there we are, Ffarquhar Yards, the retrospective. That I had a lot more to say than I thought I would. I only allocated myself 5 minutes in my anniversary video to go through all of this, but I've got over an hour of me just talking at a camera, so I think I'm going to have to split these anniversary videos up to look at specific topics. So thank you for watching what is now part 1 of a 10th anniversary retrospective series, and I will see you next time to go through some TCC related behind the scenes stuff, the Boko fan film, and perhaps even some of the Magic Within or all of the Magic Within. We'll see how much time all of that takes. So until then, thank you so much for watching and subscribing and watching the channel over the past day to decade. And I'll see you in the next video very soon. Take care. And now I've got a cat on my lap. Out claws. Thank you.